What kind of bakery lies straight to your face about what you're eating? Yarden Pierce sat in his truck across the street from Store 7 of his 10-location bakery chain, staring at the small storefront like it had personally betrayed him. He built the business from scratch almost 12 years ago back, when he was pulling all-nighters baking muffins in his apartment oven and delivering them in a beat-up hatchback at dawn. Now there were 10 stores across the state, each one supposedly sticking to the same core values: fresh products, honest service, and respect for every single customer. But lately, something had been off. The last quarterly report showed Store 7 underperforming. Complaints were trickling in: long waits, cold tea, weird attitudes. But the district manager claimed it was a slow season and that foot traffic was down. Yarden didn't like excuses. He wanted answers. He hadn't met most of the staff at Store 7. It was one of the newer locations, opened during the pandemic. The hiring was done remotely, and the only person he'd ever spoken to directly was the manager, a man named Bryce, who always sounded a little too slick on the phone. So Yarden put on a disguise: clean-shaven, glasses, hoodie, a faded jacket, and jeans. He looked nothing like the press photos in the company newsletter. Most of the younger staff had never even seen his face. He'd blend in just fine. He parked the truck, pulled his hood up, and crossed the street. It was a quiet Tuesday morning. The inside of the bakery smelled sweet but faint, too faint. A young woman behind the counter glanced up and didn't bother to smile. "Hey," she said flatly. "What can I get you?" "Hey," Yarden said, soft-spoken. "Just a green tea and maybe, what do you recommend?" "Something fresh," she snorted. "They're all fresh." Yarden looked at the pastry case. The croissants were dull and slightly flattened. The blueberry muffins had a weird shine to them, like they'd been microwaved to life. He pointed at her raspberry Danish. "I'll take one of those." The girl, her name tag read Jenna, plucked it out with tongs and dropped it into a bag with no eye contact. He paid, took his tea, and sat near the window. He took a bite of the Danish. It was cold in the middle, not just room temp chilled, like it had been stored in a fridge and reheated badly. The pastry was tough and dry, and the filling had that strange metallic tang of something way past its prime. He sipped his tea lukewarm. Weak. Behind the counter, Jenna leaned on her elbow, scrolling on her phone. A tall man in khakis and a polo came out of the back. Probably Bryce. "Did you move the old tray out?" he asked Jenna. "Nah," she said. "Still like 5 left," he sighed. "Just keep pushing them. Say they're fresh." Yarden's jaw clenched. He stood up, walked toward the counter. "Excuse me," he said. Bryce turned. "Yeah." Yarden held up the Danish in its bag. "This isn't fresh." Bryce looked him over. "Sure it is. We baked that this morning." "No, you didn't," Bryce chuckled. "Look, man, if you don't want it, get something else." "I don't want something else," Yarden said calmly. "I want honesty." Jenna rolled her eyes. "It's just a Danish, dude." Bryce waved a hand. "You want a refund or not?" Yarden stared at them both. His heart was pounding. He wasn't angry, he was disappointed, deeply. This wasn't just a bad pastry, it was a lie, a betrayal of everything he built. "I'll take the refund," he said. Bryce popped open the register and handed him cash without a word. Yarden took it and walked out. He didn't go far. Just around the block, where he leaned against the wall and pulled out his phone, he called his assistant. "Hey, it's me," he said. "Clear my schedule for the next 3 days. I'm staying in town." "Everything okay, sir?" "No, that store's broken." "Bryce is lying to customers and the staff doesn't care. I need to see what else is going on." "You want to shut it down?" "Not yet. I want to see it from the inside." He paused. "Set me up a fake resume. Entry level. Trainee. I'll start tomorrow." Yarden arrived the next morning before sunrise. The air was damp with dew, and the street was still half asleep. He wore a plain black cap, clean apron folded under his arm, and a name tag that read, Illy. The resume his assistant had crafted listed him as a culinary school dropout with casual baking experience, enough to justify hiring him without raising eyebrows, but not enough to put him above scrutiny. The front door of Store 7 was unlocked, propped open with a crate of empty milk jugs. Inside, the lights buzzed weakly. The only person visible was an older woman with tired eyes and a flour-stained shirt, hunched over the prep table in the back corner. She didn't look up when he entered. "Morning," he said. She turned slowly, brushing hair from her forehead with the back of her wrist. "You the new guy? Yeah, Illy? I'm Carmen." Her voice was low, rough like gravel. "You're early, that's good." She motioned him over. Her hands were already deep in dough, rolling and folding with quiet efficiency. He stepped beside her, washed up, and let her guide him through the motions. "You ever laminated dough before?" she asked. "Once or twice," she nodded. "Then you'll learn fast, just don't talk too much before 8. "I haven't had coffee." They worked in silence for a while. Carmen moved slowly but with purpose. Every motion had weight. Her shoulders sagged in a way that didn't come from age alone. It was the posture of someone who'd been carrying too much for too long. By 7, the front lights flicked on. A second employee arrived, a tall, lanky kid with headphones around his neck. He walked past them without a word and kicked open the stockroom door. "That's Mason," Carmen muttered. "He opens register." Yarden didn't respond. He watched the kid disappear into the back, then continued folding croissants. At 7:30, Bryce walked in. "Morning, team," he said, stretching like he'd just rolled out of bed. No one answered. He didn't seem to care. "Oh, hey, new guy, right?" Yarden wiped flour off his hands. "Yeah." "Illy?" Bryce gave him a quick once-over. "Cool, Carmen's showing you the ropes." "She is. Good. You'll mostly be on prep and cleaning for now. We've got a tight crew, so don't expect to stand around." Yarden looked at the trays they'd been filling. "Do we bake everything here?" Bryce raised an eyebrow. "Most of it." "Most," Bryce shrugged. "Some stuff comes from Central. You'll figure it out." Carmen didn't look up. The morning rush began soon after. Customers trickled in, mostly commuters grabbing coffee and something sweet. Yarden was assigned to the back counter, plating pastries and wiping down surfaces. He watched as Mason handled the register with a blank stare, barely making eye contact. When a woman asked for a gluten-free muffin, he waved toward the case without answering. She gave him a confused look before choosing something at random. By 9, the line was out the door. Yarden stepped in to help run drinks. The espresso machine sputtered and hissed, its steam wand crusted with dried milk. He made a cappuccino for a man in a suit, handed it off, then watched as the man took a sip and frowned. "This is cold," the man said. "Want me to remake it?" Yarden asked. Before the customer could answer, Bryce appeared beside him. "It's fine." "He probably let it sit too long," Bryce said with a forced laugh. "We're swamped, sir. Appreciate your patience." The man opened his mouth to argue, then closed it, clearly deciding it wasn't worth the fight. He walked out. Yarden turned to Bryce. "It was cold. I just pulled it." Bryce leaned in. "Don't start remaking every drink or we'll fall behind. People always complain. Half the time they don't even know what they ordered." Yarden didn't reply. Instead, he stepped away and grabbed a rag, wiping down the counter with slow, deliberate motions. Later that morning, Carmen handed him a tray of cinnamon rolls. "These are from yesterday," she said under her breath. "Microwave them 10 seconds before plating, makes them seem fresh." He stared at her. She didn't flinch. "I don't like it either, but that's what Bryce wants." He took the tray. His stomach tightened. By noon, the pace slowed. Carmen sat on a crate near the back, rubbing her knees. Yarden brought her a cup of tea. "Thanks," she said quietly. "You're not like the others." He sat beside her. "What do you mean?" She hesitated. "Most of the new ones don't last. They either quit or get pulled into Bryce's little circle." "What circle?" She looked away. "The ones who do what he says, no questions asked. He lets them cut corners, gives them longer breaks, hires their friends." Yarden leaned back. "And the rest, we carry the weight." He looked around the kitchen. The floor was sticky. The fridge door didn't seal properly. Half the utensils were mismatched or bent. There were no prep lists, no sanitation logs, just scribbled notes on a grease-stained whiteboard. "How long you been here?" he asked. 2 years, she said. "I transferred from store 3. It used to be better." "Why'd you stay?" She gave a tired smile. "Because someone has to care." He didn't respond. He couldn't. The guilt settled in his chest like wet cement. At closing, they scrubbed down the counters. Mason had already left. Bryce sat in the office behind a cracked door, feet on the desk, laughing into his phone. Carmen packed up donations for the food bank, unsold items that hadn't been reheated. She double-bagged everything, labeled each box, and left them by the service door. Yarden helped her carry the last crate out. "You gonna come back tomorrow?" she asked. "Yeah," he said. "I will." She looked at him, really looked for the first time. "You're not just some kid looking for work, are you?" He held her gaze. "I'm here to see what's really going on." She nodded once, then walked off without pressing further. Yarden stood alone in the alley for a moment. The city around him buzzed with life, but inside that store something was rotting, not just old pastries, not just lukewarm tea, trust, standards. People. He pulled out his phone and began writing notes, not to report, not yet. Just to remember tomorrow he'd show up even earlier. And ask different questions. By the third morning, Yarden already knew what time the delivery truck would block traffic out front, how long it took the lights to stop flickering after being turned on, and which part of the kitchen floor dipped just enough to pool water if someone overfilled the mop bucket. He also knew which employees were quietly holding things together and which ones were dragging the entire place down. He arrived just before 5, apron already tied, sleeves rolled. Carmen was there as usual, already elbow-deep in dough, her hair pulled into a tight, gray-streaked braid. She offered him a single nod, no words, just mutual understanding. They worked side by side, rolling, shaping, and setting trays to proof under the single functioning heat lamp at the back. The radio hummed low in the background, a blue station with no ads. Around 6:30, he heard the front door creak open. He expected Mason, but instead a new face came in, a girl, maybe early 20s, with a lip ring and a faded hoodie. She looked tired, but not in the way Carmen did. This was a different kind of worn down, like someone who'd been running on fumes for a while. She headed to the back without a word and began pulling out cleaning supplies. "New shift?" Yarden asked. "Started last week," she said, not looking up. "Name's Talia. You always on mornings, double today." Bryce said someone called out. He hesitated. "How often does that happen?" Talia gave a slight shrug. "Enough that I don't ask anymore." "Someone's always sick or had a thing." Carmen passed them carrying 2 trays of shaped croissants. "Talia works," she said simply. "She's solid." Yarden nodded. "Good to know." By 7, the music was drowned out by the clatter of carts and the hiss of the espresso machine heating up. Talia took over cleaning tables from the night before. Yarden noticed she didn't just wipe surfaces, she checked the legs for sticky buildup, realigned the chairs, and cleared trash others had ignored. She moved fast but deliberately. At 7:30, Bryce walked in. His shirt was untucked and his sunglasses were still on. He winced at the light, muttered something about being out late, and made a beeline for the back office. From there, Yarden could hear the soft thump of bass-heavy music through the thin door. By 8, customers were spilling through the front. Yarden was back on bar, Carmen managing the oven, Talia handling floor and restock. The rhythm was frantic but not chaotic until things started slipping. First, the syrup pump jammed. Then the register froze up. Then Mason arrived an hour late, earbuds in, and without a word walked past the 3 of them straight to the front. "Thought you were opening the register today," Talia muttered under her breath. Yarden kept his eyes on the milk steamer. "Wasn't he scheduled?" "He was. He just doesn't care." Mason logged into the system and immediately began taking orders with all the energy of a stone. He didn't greet customers. He didn't repeat their orders back. When someone asked whether the scones were made in-house, he shrugged and said, "I think so," before looking away. Yarden stepped in to refill the pastry case and caught Carmen quietly resorting a tray of almond croissants. He could see one was clearly underbaked, pale on the bottom. She set it aside. "Didn't proof long enough," she said. "Are these yesterday's?" "No, these are mine. I came in early to redo them. Bryce wanted to serve yesterday's again." Yarden blinked. You came in before 5 just to fix that? She gave a small nod. I'm not letting someone get served raw dough. He didn't say anything else. He couldn't. At 10, Bryce finally emerged, hair combed, shirt buttoned. He glanced over the line, then walked up to Talia. Take your break. I just took one like half an hour ago, she said. Doesn't matter. We're balancing hours. But Mason, go. Talia stared at him for a second, then left, grabbing her bag and heading out the front. Bryce turned to Yarden. You clean the fridge seals, they're getting moldy. It's mid-morning rush. And Yarden didn't move. We've got a line out the door. I'll do it after. Bryce narrowed his eyes. You think you set priorities now? I think customers waiting 20 minutes for food should be the priority. Bryce stepped closer. You're on your 3rd day, don't get comfortable. Yarden held his ground. Then fire me. Bryce stared at him for a beat, then snorted and walked away. The rush didn't slow until noon. Talia returned with a paper bag and a bottle of water, her face pale. You okay? Yarden asked. She sat heavily on a milk crate in the back. Low blood sugar. Bryce makes me take breaks when I'm not ready, then won't let me take one when I actually need it. You told anyone? She laughed once bitterly. Told him. He said I could bring more snacks. Carmen set a small plate beside her, a half sandwich she'd stashed from earlier. Eat, she said. Then go sit in the back for 10. I'll get docked. Then I'll cover you. Yarden watched the exchange. It wasn't just Carmen carrying the store, it was people like Talia, too quiet, bent but not broken, still trying to hold the line. The final straw came at 2:30. A woman walked in with her son, maybe 8 years old, wearing a puffy blue coat. She asked about the peanut-free options. Mason was back on register. Do the chocolate chip muffins have peanuts? No idea, he said without looking up. Can you check? My son has a severe allergy. Mason sighed. If it was serious, you probably shouldn't be here. Yarden's head jerked up. The mother stood frozen. Her son looked down at the floor. Mason, Yarden said, voice steady, go in the back. He didn't move. Now, Bryce had reappeared by then, leaning against the wall. What's going on? Yarden turned to him. She asked about allergens. He told her not to come here. Bryce shrugged. He's not a doctor. She asked a basic question. He refused to answer and insulted a customer. Bryce looked at Mason. Go wipe tables. Yarden stepped in front of him. No. He's done. What's your problem? Bryce asked. You don't run this store. Yarden reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. Inside was his corporate ID. He held it out, letting Bryce read the name, Yarden Pierce, founder and CEO. The room went still. Talia's mouth parted, but no sound came. Carmen didn't even blink. Mason froze mid-step. Bryce stared at the card, then back at Yarden. This is a joke. You're not. I was here 3 days. I saw everything. You lied about freshness. You reheated days-old pastries. You overworked the people who cared and protected the ones who didn't. You let a staff member mock a child's food allergy. Bryce's face reddened. You can't just. You're done. Effective immediately. He turned to Mason. You too. You're a liability. You've been rude to customers, shown up late, and demonstrated zero professionalism. Mason opened his mouth, closed it, then walked out without a word. Talia stood slowly, still holding the uneaten half of her sandwich. Is this real? She asked. Yes, Yarden said. It's real. He looked around the store. This place isn't broken because of you. It's broken because no one held leadership accountable. That ends now. He picked up the phone on the wall and called headquarters. I need a temporary manager assigned to Store 7, effective today. I'll text you the details. He hung up and faced Carmen. You've held this place together with no support. That changes starting today. She crossed her arms. What happens now? Now, Yarden exhaled. Now we rebuild. Starting with the truth. The next morning, the temporarily closed sign was taped to the inside glass of Store 7's front door. A handwritten note beneath it read, "Reopening soon, fresh start in progress." Inside, the air was still. The humming of the fridge and the low buzz of the lights were the only sounds. Yarden stood in the middle of the kitchen with his sleeves rolled up and a clipboard tucked under one arm. He wasn't here to pose. He was here to work. A regional manager named Dana had driven in at sunrise to meet him. Sharp-eyed, direct, and with a practical streak built from years of running short-staffed locations, she was the kind of leader who didn't waste a syllable. She'd brought 2 relief staff with her, a baker named Theo and a front-of-house lead named Amira, both from high-performing stores. Yarden addressed the room plainly, eyes meeting each person present. "We won't reopen until this place runs right. That means clean kitchen, clear rolls, and no more shortcuts. If you're staying on, you're part of that reset." Carmen stood with her arms lightly crossed, her weight shifted slightly to one side. She didn't speak, but she nodded once. Talia, standing beside the espresso machine, gave a small yeah under her breath. She looked tired but not defeated. Theo unloaded a fresh crate of raw ingredients. "We're doing a full batch today." Dana looked at Yarden. "You good with that?" "Yes, no frozen stock, no leftovers, everything made today." The team broke into motion. Yarden joined Carmen at the prep table while Amira worked with Talia to recalibrate the register system and clean the customer-facing areas. Dana took inventory of the backroom, noting what could be salvaged and what needed to be tossed. 2 hours in, Yarden stepped into the walk-in fridge. The air was thick with the smell of spoiled cream and wilting herbs. He pulled a tray of old muffins from the top shelf and dumped them directly into the trash bin. One by one, he cleared the entire middle rack. Nothing old was being saved. Carmen entered behind him with an empty crate. "You sure you want to toss everything? That's a lot of cost." "I'm not calculating this in dollars today," he said, placing a hand gently on the edge of the crate. "People trusted us to give them something real. We broke that. So we start clean." She nodded and began loading the crate with expired dairy. It's been a long time since someone said that out loud. Out front, Amira reprogrammed the POS system to remove items that weren't actually available and added allergen flags to every product that needed it. Talia watched the process closely. "You've done this before?" she asked. "Too many times," Amira replied. "But this is the first time I've seen the owner standing in the fridge with a mop." By noon, the place smelled different. Real butter, warm cinnamon, and the sharp edge of lemon zest hung in the air. Theo pulled the first tray of croissants from the oven, their edges blistered perfectly, each one shaped by hand that morning. Yarden took one and broke it open. The layers flaked in perfect spirals. He offered it silently to Carmen, who took a bite, chewed, then just nodded once and went back to work. Dana stepped into the center of the kitchen, checking her watch. "We open tomorrow. One soft launch day, no promos. If it works, we stay open. If it doesn't, we pause again." Yarden looked around. "If it doesn't, we fix it until it does." That night, the staff stayed late, but not because they were forced to. Tasks were divided clearly. No one was left picking up after someone else. When Talia offered to scrub the espresso machine, Yarden stopped her. "You've been here since morning. Go home. Be back at 8 sharp tomorrow." She hesitated. "You sure?" "I'll finish it. You've done enough." She stared at him for a few seconds, then gave a small, quiet thanks and grabbed her coat. Carmen hung up her apron last. As she passed, she looked at Yarden. "You're really staying for this?" "I am," she nodded. "Then so am I." The next morning, the soft launch began at 8. No music, no flyers. Just a small sign in the window reading "Open." The first customer was the woman from 2 days ago, the one with the son who'd asked about peanut allergies. She approached the counter cautiously. Talia greeted her. "Morning. We've updated our allergen info. I can show you which items are safe for your son." The woman blinked, surprised. "Thank you." Yarden stood off to the side, apron on, watching. He didn't step in. He didn't need to. Over the next 2 hours, a steady stream of regulars trickled in. Some looked confused to see new faces. Others just placed their orders quietly and waited. One man asked if this was still the same place. "Same name," Amira said. "Different rules." Carmen brought out a fresh tray of danishes. They were warm, rich, and filled with house-made fruit compote. No one had to reheat anything. No one had to lie. By mid-morning, Dana handed Yarden a tablet with the day's numbers. Not a rush, but steady, and no complaints so far. He scrolled through. That's better than I expected. We'll need to hire, she said. You can't run like this long-term with 2 full-timers and a backup crew. I know, he said. We'll post for it, but I want to build this one slow. Every hire has to meet the bar, she nodded. You've got the right one still here. Before closing, Yarden gathered the small staff near the counter. We opened this store with the right ingredients, but we lost sight of what mattered. That's on me. I stepped back too far, trusted the wrong people. But this place doesn't survive because of a name. It survives because of people like you. He looked at Talia. You worked 2 shifts in a row without anyone asking if you were okay. That ends now. Then to Carmen. You've been carrying this place with no recognition. That's over. He turned to Dana, effective tomorrow, Carmen's interim manager, full pay, full authority. Carmen blinked. What? You've been doing the job already. Now you get the title. No applause, she said, brushing flour off her sleeve. Just keep the ovens hot. Everyone laughed soft, real, a little tired. As the last customer left, Yarden stood alone behind the counter, wiping down the espresso machine. Every surface gleamed. The lights no longer buzzed. The pastry case was half empty, not because things were stale, but because people had eaten them. Dana came up beside him, arms folded. You sticking around for a few more days, he said. Want to make sure it sticks. You're going to need to do this at other stores. I know. But this one needed it first. She nodded once and left him there, alone in the quiet. He looked around the space, now scrubbed clean, rebuilt from the inside out, not by force, but by people who cared. No shortcuts. No lies, just honest work done right. He brewed himself a cup of tea. Strong, hot, no bitterness. And this time it was exactly what it said it was.